Shalom Israel. Welcome to another edition of Watchmen of the Faith Ministries. Today's title is going to be, and it's called For the Last Damn Time. Okay, and laugh out loud. It's just that I want to go into a little bit more in depth with who was Cornelius. Because again, I see some brothers are still believing that Cornelius was somebody from another nation. But what I'm going to do is bring out some scriptures that I haven't seen other brothers use in trying to prove the point that Cornelius was an Israelite. These things are very, very important because this is going to help us to understand, like I always say, the Bible more clearly. All right, the Bible is talking about reunifying both northern and southern kingdom, and that none of the disciples came to teach another doctrine. That's very important for us to understand. Okay, and again, the title of this show is called For the Last Damn Time. All right. No fun intended. I'm not, making mockery of anybody, anything like that. It's just that I want to give my opportunity to bring out some key points on that Cornelius was an Israelite. All right. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to be reading from Acts, the 10th chapter. I'm going to start at the first verse and bring out some key words that's going to help us to understand that Cornelius was an Israelite. All right. I'm going to be reading from, again, Acts, the 10th chapter. I'm going to start with verse 1. It said, there was a certain man in Caesarea called Cornelius, a centurion of the band called the Italian band. So first thing what I did now is I looked up the word centurion to see exactly what is a centurion. And when I looked up in the dictionary, the word centurion is a captain in the ancient Roman army consisting of about 100 foot soldiers. All right. So we know that Cornelius had a position in Rome in that he was leading an army of about 100 foot soldiers. All right, so a centurion is a position in the Roman army. He was a centurion of the band called the Italian band. So that was his band. That doesn't mean that Cornelius was an Italian. That means that he was the head of an army of a band called the Italian band, and the word centurion means it's a captain in the ancient army consisting of about 1,000 foot soldiers. This is very important for us to understand. Then verse 2, it says, a devout man and one that feared the Messiah with all his household, which gave much alms to the people and prayed to the Most High always. Now, what I found very important here is the word devout. What is a devout man? And what we're going to do now is I looked up the word devout, which is very, very interesting. A devout man is a zealous man. He's showing devotion. He's dedicated. He's faithful. And most important of all, he's holy. Okay, he was not a transgressor of the law. So a devout person he's zealous. He's showing devotion. He's dedicated. He's faithful. And that he's holy. So in other words, this man is following Torah, which is very, very important. What makes a person righteous is when a person follows Torah. So what I'm doing now is that I'm not adding or taking away anything from the scripture. All right. What I'm doing now is using words that are synonymous with the word devout to help us get a better understanding on the word devout. So he was a zealous person showing devotion. He was dedicated. He was faithful and he was holy. And one that feared the Messiah. And when it said, what is fear? Fear is obedient. Remember, Abraham was also called righteous because he obeyed. And so a person, if he's fearing the Messiah, he's obeying the laws, statutes, and commandments. This means that Cornelius here was following Torah. And that word devout is very, very important again because it's going to help us to understand exactly who Cornelius is. And that this man feared the Messiah with all his house and gave much alms to the people and prayed to the Messiah always. That's very important for us to understand that this man prayed to the Messiah always, all the time. Now, I have a couple of scriptures here that's going to help us to understand this thing a whole lot better in proving that Cornelius was an Israelite. We're going to go to Acts. Let's go to Acts 22:12 first. Acts 22:12. So we could bring out some examples here to help us understand the scriptures a whole lot better. Acts 22:12. And one Ananias, a devout man. So we see here now Ananias, he was a devout man, and there should be no problem with us understanding that Ananias was an Israelite. Hopefully that's not a problem. So, and one Ananias, a devout man, according to the law. So what makes a person devout? We have to understand what is the law. Because as it tells us in John, I think it's 1 John, the 3rd chapter, the 4th verse. Let's get to that right quick. 1 John. We have it right here, 1 John, the 3rd chapter, the 4th verse. It says, whosoever committeth sin transgresses also the law. So we know that a devout person is not transgressing the law. For sin is the transgression of the law. So again, what it says in Acts the 22nd chapter, let's go back to that. We're going to bring up this thing in this clarity. Where it says, and one Ananias, a devout man according to the law. So what we have to do now is go to the law and define what does the word devout means. A devout means, according to Hebrew, and again we have to keep everything in its Hebraic perspective, a devout person is somebody that's not transgressing the law. He's following Torah. And one Ananias, in Acts 22:12, and one Ananias, a devout man according to the law, having a good report of all the Jews which dwelt there. Now, that's very important. This man had a good report amongst all the Jews. All right? We're talking about Southern Kingdom. Because again, during the time of the Messiah's ministry, who was there collectively was Southern Kingdom. There were stragglers from Northern Kingdom also there, but the main bulk of the people that were there was called Southern Kingdom. And this man was a devout man, and he had a good reputation amongst the people. Now, when we go back now to Acts the 10th chapter, Cornelius was also called a devout person. So what I did now is use the same principles. And the principles is this, is understanding according to Torah what is meant by a devout person. A devout person is a person that follows Torah. Now I want to go to Acts the 8th chapter, the 2nd verse. All right, we're going to bring this thing out in this clarity so there'll be no problem. Let's start at the first verse actually. And Saul, which is actually Shaul, which is Paul, was consenting into his death, which is Stephen. And at that time there was a great persecution against the church, and the church is pertaining to the house of Israel. Okay, because the word church is actually, the Christians like to say the called out ones. But the first time we see the word called out one is the Hebrew word kahal. All right, so we know that the Messiah called out, or kahal, all right, the church that was in the wilderness, or the church that was in Egypt at that particular time, was the nation of Israel. Okay, so the church is pertaining to the nation of Israel. It's not talking about the church or the Christian church. That's not what it's talking about. The church means, all right, the house of Israel. And the word is kahal, which means called out. Not talking about the Christian church. There was a great persecution against the church, which was at Jerusalem, and they were all scattered abroad. Again, they were all scattered abroad because there was persecution against the church. Kahal, the house of Israel. And they were all scattered abroad throughout the region of Judea and Samaria, except the apostles. And devout men carried Stephen to his burial and made great lamentations over him. So again, we see the word devout. This word devout, you can't just throw this word around on anybody. A devout person is a person that's following Torah. All right? Who got the laws, statutes, and commandments? Israel got the laws, statutes, and commandments. And Israel's job was to show forth this light to all the nations on the planet Earth. All right? This is how the Messiah and the other people on the planet Earth would know that we are the Messiah's disciples indeed, is when we follow the laws, statutes, and commandments. All right? So be careful about throwing this word devout into all the other nations. All right? If it doesn't apply. And right here, it doesn't apply. Cornelius, again, was an Israelite. All right? So this devout person here is Stephen. So we have one devout person was Ananias. The other devout person we see being Stephen, and we see the other devout person being Cornelius. All right. And all three of these individuals were Israelites. All right. Please get that understanding. They were Israelites. Now, let's go back to Acts, the 10th chapter. And let's go to Acts, the 2nd chapter, the 5th verse. All right. We're still playing with this word devout here. Again, because you can't just throw this word around. The word devout means something. Again, the word devout means zealous, showing devotion. He's dedicated. He's faithful to the law. He's a holy person. And what makes a person righteous, again, is when he's following the laws, statutes, and commandments. Just like with Zechariah. What made Zechariah righteous is that Zechariah followed the laws, statutes, and commandments. Okay, Acts, the 2nd chapter, the 5th verse. And they were dwelling at Jerusalem, Jews, devout men. We see that word devout being used again. But the word devout is pertaining to, again, a person that's following Torah. This person has a zeal for the Torah. He has a faithful heart, love and understanding for the Torah. That makes him devout. Now listen again. And they were dwelling at Jerusalem, Jews, devout men out of every nation under heaven. I'm going to read that again because that's very important. There were devout men out of every nation under heaven. That's very important for us to understand. There was a scattering, all right? Remember, Saul had got the permission, all right, to lay in captivity and bring back these Jews that were scattered amongst all the nations of the heaven. They were scattered abroad, and he would bring them back to Jerusalem. This caused fear within inside of the community, and we were scattered abroad. So what happened now is that there were devout men out of every nation. And one of these devout men was Cornelius. Very simple for us to understand. And we're going to bring out some more scriptures for further edification to help us to understand this. I'm going to read this again. Acts 2 and 5. And they were dwelling at Jerusalem, Jews, devout men out of every nation under heaven. Now, let's go back to Acts, the 10th chapter, and bring out some more, key words that's going to help us to understand this a whole lot better. Okay, 3rd verse. And he, which is Cornelius, saw in a sudden vision about the 9th hour, and the 9th hour is 3 o'clock p.m. I'm finding out that a lot of brothers, and this is not to make mockery of anybody, because we all have to learn. I have to learn. I'm still in the process of learning, all right? But we have to also understand how to tell time from a Hebraic perspective, okay? Where it says the 9th hour, that's very important for us to understand. The 9th hour doesn't mean 9 o'clock. The 9th hour means 3 o'clock p.m. So it says, he saw in a vision round about the 9th hour. So the 9th hour would be around 3 o'clock p.m. Other day, a messenger of the Messiah coming into him and saying unto him, Cornelius. Now, I just want to backtrack just a little bit here. It said that this man, Cornelius, prayed always to the Most High. And we're going to find out exactly what was this prayer, that Cornelius prayed. I'm going to say it again. It is very important that we don't run over words. It's important for us to understand these key descriptive words, all right, because it's going to bring clarity in helping us to understand the scripture. When he said he prayed always to the Messiah, we have to understand what was the prayer, that Cornelius prayed, about the 9th hour. All right, we're going to go into that a little bit later on, all right? The 4th verse. And when he looked on him, he was afraid and said, what is it, Lord? And he said unto him, thy prayers and thy alms are come up for a memorial before the Father. That's very important. I'm going to read it again. Thy prayers and thy alms. What prayers? What was Cornelius praying? Thy prayers and thy alms are come up for a memorial before the Father. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to stop because verses 2 and 4 is very, very important, Israel. Hang in there. I'm going to go through this thing one step at a time, all right? And with that, I say shalom, and we're going to continue on with the second lesson.